I just spent 3 days running blind listening tests with 12 people, comparing a $399 Polk Audio soundbar against a $2,499 DVLA Premium Atmos system. The results genuinely shocked everyone in the room, including me. 37% picked the cheap soundbar as better sounding. 37% picked the expensive system. And 26% couldn't hear enough difference to confidently choose either one. That's not a typo. A soundbar costing 1/6 the price tied with a flagship system that costs more than some used cars, and a quarter of listeners heard essentially no difference at all. Before I show you the actual blind test footage and break down why this happened, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you want honest audio testing that challenges the expensive gear hype. And tell me in the comments, what soundbar or speaker system are you using right now, and how much did you pay for it? Let me introduce the competitors because the price gap here is absurd. In the budget corner, we have the Polk Audio Signa S4, which costs $399 and gives you a 3.1.2 channel Dolby Atmos soundbar with a wireless subwoofer included in the box. This is Polk's mid-range soundbar featuring upward firing drivers for Atmos height effects, a dedicated center channel for dialogue, and that wireless sub-handling low-frequency effects. It's made by Polk Audio, a company that's been making speakers since 1972 and knows how to extract performance from budget components. In the premium corner, we have the DVLA Dione, costing $24.99 for just the soundbar alone. DVLA is a French audio company known for making ultra-premium amplifiers and speakers that cost thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. The Dione is their entry into soundbars, and calling it a soundbar almost undersells it. This is a 5.1.2 channel Atmos system with integrated subwoofers built directly into the soundbar. 950 watts of total power, 17 drivers including dedicated height speakers, and enough engineering to make aerospace companies jealous. The DNA can reproduce bass down to 24 Hz, which is lower than most standalone subwoofers manage, all from a single unit that doesn't need any external components. On paper, this shouldn't even be a competition. The DVLA costs 6 times more, has more channels, more power, more drivers, and more engineering. It should demolish the Polk in every category, but blind testing has a way of exposing uncomfortable truths about diminishing returns in audio equipment. Understanding blind testing. Blind tests remove bias by hiding which product is playing. When you can see equipment, your brain is influenced by factors that have nothing to do with sound quality. Expensive gear looks impressive with premium materials, fancy logos, and substantial weight that suggests quality. Your expectations shape what you hear. Studies have repeatedly shown that when people know they're listening to expensive equipment, they report hearing better sound quality even when the actual audio signal is identical. This is called expectation bias, and it affects everyone, including experienced audio reviewers. The way I ran this blind test was simple but rigorous. Both soundbars were set up in the same room, positioned identically relative to the seating position. I used an SPL meter to level match both systems, meaning they played at exactly the same volume. This is critical because even small volume differences of 1 or 2 decibels make the louder system sound better regardless of actual quality. I connected both systems to the same TV using the same HDMI cables and played the same Dolby Atmos content from the same sources. The only variable was which soundbar was actually playing. Test participants sat in the primary listening position with their eyes closed or facing away from the equipment. I switched between soundbar A and soundbar B using labels that didn't reveal which was which. After playing 3 different content samples, movie dialogue, action sequence with overhead effects, and music playback, participants indicated which system they preferred or if they couldn't tell a difference. Only after all testing was complete did I reveal which soundbar was the Polk and which was the DVLA. This methodology eliminates the influence of price, brand reputation, and physical appearance. You're forced to judge purely on what you hear, which is exactly what audio equipment should be evaluated on. The results revealed some uncomfortable truths about premium audio pricing. The Polk Signa S4 breakdown. Let's talk about what $399 actually gets you with the Polk Signa S4, because this soundbar punches way above its price point. The main soundbar houses left, center, and right channels plus two upward-firing drivers for Atmos height effects. The center channel is crucial for movie dialogue, and Polk uses a dedicated driver specifically for voices rather than trying to create a phantom center with left and right speakers. This means dialogue stays anchored to the screen even when you're sitting off center, which cheaper soundbars struggle with. The wireless subwoofer is a 6.5-inch driver in a compact cabinet that produces surprisingly deep bass for its size. During testing, the Polk sub handled movie explosions and music bass with authority that legitimately impressed people. It doesn't dig as deep as high-end subs that reach below 20 Hz, but for normal movie and TV content, it provides satisfying impact without being overwhelming. The sub connects wirelessly so you can position it anywhere in the room without running cables, and it paired instantly without any setup headaches. Polk's Voice Adjust feature is a game changer for dialogue clarity. It offers 3 levels of voice boost that enhance dialogue frequencies without making voices sound unnatural or thin. Most people with hearing loss, or anyone who constantly uses subtitles because they can't understand what actors are saying, will find Voice Adjust transforms their viewing experience. You can actually hear every word clearly without cranking the overall volume to uncomfortable levels. This feature alone provides value that expensive soundbars often don't offer despite costing thousands more. The Atmos implementation in the Polk uses upward-firing drivers that bounce sound off your ceiling to create the illusion of overhead speakers. This requires a relatively flat ceiling at reasonable height, typically 8 to 10 feet. If you have vaulted ceilings or unusual room geometry, the effect doesn't work as well. But in standard rooms, the Polk creates convincing height effects where rain, helicopters, and other overhead sounds appear to come from above rather than just the soundbar in front of you. It's not as precise or dramatic as systems with physical ceiling speakers, but it's genuinely impressive for the price. The limitations of the Polk are what you'd expect at this price point. Build quality is solid but not luxurious, with plastic cabinets instead of premium materials. There's no room calibration beyond basic settings, so you cannot automatically optimize the sound for your specific space. The soundbar doesn't get extremely loud before distortion becomes noticeable, which matters in very large rooms but is fine for typical living rooms. And there's zero expandability. You cannot add rear speakers or upgrade components later. What you buy is what you get. The DVLA DNA breakdown. Now, let's talk about where that $249 goes with the DVLA DNA, because this is legitimately one of the most engineered soundbars ever created. DVLA packed 17 drivers into this single unit, including dedicated mid-range drivers, tweeters, and subwoofers arranged in a proprietary configuration they call ORB, which stands for Orb-Shaped Reference Burst. The design creates 360-degree sound dispersion that fills rooms more evenly than traditional forward-firing soundbars. The integrated subwoofers are the Dione's party trick. Most soundbars require external subs because you cannot fit adequate bass drivers into slim soundbar cabinets. DVLA somehow engineered 8 subwoofer drivers into the Dione that produce bass down to 24 Hz, which is deeper than many standalone subwoofers. We're talking visceral, room-shaking low-end from a single soundbar with no external boxes. The engineering required to achieve this without making the soundbar massive or having bass notes distort is genuinely impressive. 950 watts of total power means the Dion can play extremely loud without distortion or compression. In large rooms or for parties where you want theater-level volume, the DVLA maintains clarity and dynamics that budget soundbars cannot match. This power headroom also means the Dione sounds effortless at normal listening volumes, never straining or working hard to produce sound. There's a sense of ease and refinement that comes from having excess power in reserve. The Atmos implementation uses both upward-firing and side-firing drivers to create a more immersive sound bubble than traditional soundbars. DVLA claims the Dione creates true 5.1.2 channel separation despite being a single unit. And in large rooms with proper placement, it genuinely works. Overhead effects have presence and directionality, and the wide soundstage extends beyond the physical soundbar to create enveloping audio. The DNA includes space technology, which is DVLA's room adaptation that adjusts sound based on whether the soundbar is wall-mounted or placed on furniture. It's not full room calibration like premium receivers offer, but it helps optimize performance for placement. The Dione also supports pretty much every audio format, including Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and high-resolution audio streaming through AirPlay 2 and Spotify Connect. Where the DVLA stumbles is flexibility and value proposition. There's no way to add rear speakers for true surround sound, which seems insane at this price point. You're stuck with the virtualized surround the single soundbar creates. There's minimal EQ control or customization beyond basic treble and bass adjustments. The Diane is engineered to sound how DVLA thinks it should sound, and you get limited ability to tune it to your preferences. And obviously, the price is absurd. $2,500 for a soundbar is more than most people spend on entire home theater systems, including the TV. The blind test results explained. So, why did a $399 soundbar tie with a $2,500 system in blind testing? Several factors explain these results, and they reveal important truths about audio equipment that manufacturers don't want you thinking about. First, diminishing returns hit hard above $500 in consumer audio. Going from TV speakers to a $300 soundbar is a massive upgrade that anyone can hear. Going from a $300 soundbar to a $2,000 soundbar is also an upgrade, but the magnitude is far smaller. You're paying 5 times more for maybe 20 to 30% better performance, and that improvement requires trained listening in optimal conditions to appreciate. In casual blind tests at match volumes, these differences become subtle enough that many people cannot reliably identify which is which. Second, room acoustics matter more than equipment quality in most cases. Both the Polk and DVLA were tested in the same room, meaning they faced identical acoustic challenges from reflections, room modes, and furniture placement. A $1,500 difference in soundbar quality gets swamped by room acoustic problems that affect both systems equally. If I had tested in a dedicated theater room with acoustic treatment, the DVLA's superior resolution and dynamics would have been more apparent. But in a normal living room, which is where 99% of people use soundbars, room acoustics level the playing field. Third, level matching eliminates the loudness advantage that expensive gear often has in showrooms. Audio dealers and marketing demos typically play expensive equipment louder because louder always sounds more impressive to human ears, even when the actual sound quality is identical. By matching volumes precisely, I removed this psychological trick, forcing people to judge on actual tonal balance, clarity, and imaging, rather than raw impact from higher volume. Fourth, content matters enormously. During testing, I used dialogue-heavy movie scenes, explosion-filled action sequences, and music playback. For dialogue, both soundbars performed excellently with clear, intelligible voices. The Polk's voice adjust arguably made it better for dialogue than the DVLA, which doesn't offer dedicated dialogue boost. For explosions and action, the DVLA's deeper bass and higher power gave it an edge that some listeners noticed, but others preferred the Polk's more controlled presentation that didn't overpower the rest of the soundtrack. For music, preferences split based on personal taste rather than objective quality, with some preferring the Polk's balanced signature and others liking the DVLA's more dynamic presentation. Fifth, listener training varies wildly. Some test participants were audio enthusiasts who critically listen to music daily and attend live concerts regularly. These trained listeners were more likely to notice subtle differences and prefer the DVLA's superior resolution and dynamics. But most participants were average consumers who watch TV and movies casually and don't obsess over audio quality. These casual listeners often couldn't reliably hear differences or slightly preferred the Polk because its more compressed sound signature was easier to listen to without fatigue. When you combine all these factors, you get results where a budget soundbar legitimately competes with gear costing 6 times more. This doesn't mean the DVLA is bad or overpriced relative to its engineering. The Diane is an exceptional piece of audio equipment that does things no other soundbar can do. But it also means that for most people in most rooms with most content, a well-executed budget soundbar delivers 90% of the experience for 15% of the cost. The value proposition breakdown. Let's talk about that $2,100 price difference. If you have a large room over 400 square feet, the DVLA's extra power and bass genuinely benefit. If you're an audio enthusiast who appreciates subtle improvements in resolution and soundstage precision, the Devialet delivers refinement. And if you value industrial design, the Dion is gorgeous. But for most people in typical living rooms, those benefits don't justify $2,000 more. The Polk Signa S4 delivers clear dialogue, satisfying bass, and convincing Atmos effects for $400. Spending that extra $2,000 on a larger TV or room acoustic treatment will improve your experience more than upgrading from Polk to DVLA. This is the uncomfortable truth about premium audio. Improvements become so subtle, they're not worth the cost except for dedicated enthusiasts with trained ears and optimized rooms. For soundbars, that point is probably around $800 to $1,000. Beyond that, you're paying exponentially more for incrementally smaller improvements most people won't notice. When the DVLA makes sense, there are specific situations where the DVLA justifies its price. If you're building a dedicated home theater in a large room and refuse a separate subwoofer, the Dion delivers bass no other standalone soundbar matches. If you primarily watch high-quality Blu-ray movies, the Dion's superior resolution reveals details budget soundbars miss. If you're an audiophile with premium equipment costing thousands, maintaining that performance standard makes sense. The Dion also makes sense if you've already maximized other aspects and want to optimize the last 10%. But for most people with good but not great TVs, acoustic problems, and mixed streaming content, spending $2,500 on a soundbar is like installing racing tires on a minivan. Why this matters for consumers. This blind test reveals something important about consumer audio marketing. The industry wants you to believe spending more always gets proportionally better sound. Marketing emphasizes specifications while downplaying that improvements are subtle and require ideal conditions to appreciate. Audio quality follows a logarithmic curve rather than linear. Going from $50 to $200 is huge improvement. $200 to $500 is noticeable. $500 to $1,000 is subtle. $1,000 to $2,500 is apparent only to trained listeners in controlled conditions. Yet pricing suggests linear improvement, which is fundamentally dishonest. This doesn't mean you shouldn't buy premium audio. If you're passionate about sound quality, premium gear provides genuine satisfaction. But be realistic about what you're getting. That extra $2,000 buys refinement, not a night and day transformation anyone can instantly hear. The Polk Signa S4. Recommendation. For most people, the Polk Audio Signa S4 at $399 is the soundbar to buy. It delivers massive improvement over TV speakers, includes wireless subwoofer, supports Dolby Atmos with height channels, and features voice adjust for crystal clear dialogue. The sound quality is genuinely good and competes with $1,000 soundbars. The Polk works in typical living rooms without requiring acoustic treatment or perfect placement. Simple setup with one HDMI cable and automatic subwoofer pairing. You connect it, turn it on, and it sounds good immediately. At $400, the Polk represents the sweet spot in soundbar value. You can buy the Polk Plus Apple TV 4K Plus streaming subscriptions and still spend less than the DVLA alone. Or put that $2,000 toward a better TV, which will improve your experience more. The bottom line on audio value: stop focusing on prices and specifications. Start focusing on whether something sounds good to your ears in your room. A $399 soundbar that makes you excited to watch movies delivers more value than a $2,500 system you buy because reviews said it's better, then feel disappointed by. Audio equipment should serve you, not impress others. The goal is creating experiences you enjoy, not owning expensive components. The Polk Signa S4 creates those experiences for vast majority of users at a price without financial guilt. The DVLA Dion is remarkable engineering, providing marginally better sound at exponentially higher cost. For enthusiasts who value that last bit of refinement, it's worth it. For everyone else, it's expensive overkill. If this blind test changed how you think about audio pricing or helped you decide what to buy, hit that like button, subscribe for more honest audio testing, and drop a comment telling me whether you choose the $400 soundbar or $2,500 system and why.